Good morning, everybody. How is everybody doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. You are welcome to unmute, put your cameras on and say hello, if you can.
Hello, Dheshnee, and hello to all the familiar faces online.
Good
morning, everyone.
Morning. Good
morning,
morning,
Sally.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you have your cuppers ready, steaming hot. Okay.
Well, as hot
Yes.
as the topic, as hot as the topic is.
As hot as the topic, correct, Elsa? Absolutely. So welcome, everybody. Make sure you have your coffee, your tea, or whatever it is that's going to help you look operational today. We're going to be talking about, are we bidding or are we just panicking professionally? The cost of reactive bidding, right? I suspect most of us have experienced that moment when an RFP lands and suddenly everyone becomes very interested in strategy, right? Sales knows the client, finance wants the pricing model, legal has concerns. Sounds familiar? So someone wants to reuse the last proposal and the bid team is expected to bring order, insight, and perhaps a small miracle. We've all heard that one before, right? But today is not about complaining about those situations. It's about recognizing them, laughing at ourselves a little, and exploring what we can do differently before the next tender arrives. So I'm going to share my screen, and there is a poll up on the screen, so please interact. Let me know when you can see my screen.
We can.
Perfect. Okay, so this is a conversation. So please use the chat, respond to the polls, and share your experiences. No company names are required. We are here to discuss the behavior, not identify the scene of the crime. Okay, so this is just a safe space. It's a presentation. It's definitely not one where I speak for 45 minutes and everyone politely pretends not to be checking email. Think of it as a virtual coffee conversation, right? About what really happens when a tender lands. Some rules, there's no judgments. We've all submitted at least one opportunity that in hindsight should have received a respectful no bid. No company names. We're going to protect the innocent, the guilty, and the sales directors. And the chat does count as participation. So you don't have to unmute if you're sitting in an environment where it's difficult to do so. A comment or an emoji or a slightly uncomfortable yes in the chat is more than enough. So today I'll take you through capture planning, right? I have a few slides, but they're just really prompts. I would much rather hear what happens in your organizations, the good, the bad, and the professionally panicked. Okay, let's start with a confession, because why not? So you're welcome to put it in the chat or pick up your hand. What actually triggers action in your organization? Is it a client need? Is it an early opportunity signal? Or is it the arrival of the RFP? Don't be shy. Let us know.
I think in my company, it's the arrival of the RFP.
Yeah. Spot on, Mohammed. That's normally what we all do. That's what gets us moving.
Or 2 weeks after the arrival of the RFP.
Also true, right?
Literally currently busy with one of those.
Right? Yeah. Absolutely, Janet. You are not alone. Looking at the chat, definitely all aligned. Arrival of the RFP. Some say early opportunity. That's great. That's really, really great.
You can drop the the details of where you work in private for me. If you manage to get that right in a company, I'm thoroughly impressed.
Absolutely. It is impressive. It is impressive. One we all strive to be a part of, right? Absolutely. Love it. Okay, good stuff. Okay, so yeah, absolutely. Right now, RFPs influence about 30 to 40% of company revenue, right? So we should actually, we are busier, they are more competitive, harder to win. But of course, we need to be able to understand what triggers that and how to proactively, pursue them, which is what today's discussion is all about. So many teams do believe they are pursuing an opportunity because they are busy. They're building pricing models. They're collecting CVs. They're updating proposal templates. These activities are necessary, right? We all do know that. It helps us to preempt the content and the collateral that's needed to put a well thought out, persuasive proposal together. So yes, they are necessary, but they are not capture strategy on their own, right? Strategy answers harder questions. Why will the customer choose us? What matters most to them? What proof do we have that are going to make our claims believable? And the multi-million rand question, right? Are we genuinely positioned to win? So those are some of the harder questions that strategy asks. And the key message here is that bidding is producing a submission, but pursuing is really improving the probability of winning, right? Activity doesn't automatically mean that we have a strategy. Okay, so winning starts before the tender lands, when there's still time to understand the opportunity, to influence, all above board and ethically, of course, but to influence and to test and prepare. Okay. I'm sure many of you have heard this before. We know the client, right? It's often used as evidence that the opportunity is definitely worth pursuing. What does that mean, though, knowing the client? Give me a couple of answers in the chat. What does that mean to you, knowing the client?
Understanding where they're going with their business, how we can actually support them, what their pain points are, where we can actually give them solutions to help the business, to actually understand what they want to do with their business.
Absolutely, Janet. Absolutely. That's the good definition of knowing the client, right? Not that we've done work for them before. Exactly, Portia. Good to see you here. It's understanding their hot buttons. Yes, Christy. Absolutely, right? Exactly, Mareka. So what if we know the client? Do we actually have credible insights, understanding their hot buttons? Exactly, right? So basically, it's not that we've worked with them before. We've seen them on the golf course. We've exchanged a business card. No, we need to know, who influences the decision. What are they really trying to achieve? How will they measure success, right? All of those great things, hot buttons, all of those great things. So familiarity is really not positioning. And access is not influence. And remember that a relationship is not strategy. Knowing the client only becomes valuable when it produces insight that shapes the pursuit and, of course, the eventual response, right? So it's translating that credible insight into a strong document. Okay, so I'm going to play a quick audience game here, right? Because not every tender is a genuine opportunity. And us bid people, I guess I'm preaching to the converted here. Some are just simply expensive submissions disguised as pipeline, right? So I'm going to play a quick game. I'm going to read out a few statements. Put O in the chat for if it's an opportunity, a real opportunity, and put E in the chat if it's an expensive submission, right? Everybody ready?
Yes.
Good
Yes.
stuff. Okay. First statement. We first heard about this opportunity when it appeared on the tender portal. E or O? Okay, getting some E's, one O. Okay. Yep, lots of E's, a few O's. Okay. Would anyone like to share why they think it's an O? Since we have very few of those.
One of the ladies can go. I'll give them a chance.
Thank you for your chivalry.
Let's ask Sirisha.
Hi. Okay, so if I
Hi.
understood the question correctly, the
you on the
question
spot.
was, when do you know that it's a real opportunity? When it's on
Yeah.
the portal, correct?
Yes, we first heard about the opportunity when it appeared on the tender portal. Is it a real opportunity or is it an expensive submission?
I think it's a real opportunity, and I'm just thinking about the various environments that I've been in.
Okay.
And when it comes into the CRM platform, you know it's been vetted. So it's gone through all the qualification criteria. So it's a real opportunity. So you can actually get resources to actually now start putting together the submission document. Where
Okay.
if it didn't come onto your tender tracker, then you actually know it's not really a real opportunity, because now it's just been thrown on your desk. It can be flyby, like,
Yes.
that's my understanding.
Okay. So
But I stand to be
Sirisha,
corrected.
yes, you are correct in that understanding. When I mean tender portal, though, I
Mhm.
mean the external tender procurement portals, not your internal CRM, right? So it's been issued on an external procurement portal. So
Yeah.
now it's out there and it's public knowledge. Anybody can see it and can respond.
Yeah.
So the answer is E. It's an expensive, and the reason why is because we are not proactive. We are merely reacting now to
Yep,
this
that's true.
opportunity,
Mhm.
right? So we might not have the customer intelligence that we need, the competitor landscape, the pricing strategy, all of those things. It is basically green fields for us. It's new. We see this opportunity on a tender portal. Everybody is privy and now knows about this, including maybe a competitor who has now worked hard to understand that this may be coming out and has some strategy in place. So that's why we say it's an E. Does that make sense? It can become
does, but I'd
expensive.
still like to challenge it, but it's
Yes,
fine. I'll take it.
absolutely. We are welcome challenge here in this conversation.
So
Absolutely.
I guess in that term, the way you
Mhm.
explain it, I guess I would agree it is an expensive submission, because
Mhm.
there's a term that I used to use previously, and I would call it a fishing expedition, because that's basically
Yes,
what it is.
correct.
They want to see who comes back with the best price, or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So yeah,
no,
okay, I'd agree.
absolutely. Okay, cool. Thank you. Mohammed, you have your hand up.
I just wanted to ask something
Yes,
regarding this. So you said it's an expensive submission,
yes.
right? So me personally, when you say it like that, I find it negative,
Okay.
because the reason why I would go with the real opportunity is because the moment the bidding starts, it's a
Mhm.
chance for you to put your company up there and do all the work. It's a
Yeah.
chance for people to look at your company, basically, like you making it known.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's a real opportunity for me, because I'm putting my company and what I do out
Mm.
there. So
Mm.
if I for
Yes.
next time also she'll come back to me, for example, if it's a lady or whoever we bidding with. I wouldn't say it's an expensive submission because at the end of the day, you're getting your name out there. And if you're lucky enough, you are getting the tender. Yeah.
Yeah, so Mohammed, I agree with your scenario, right? It's definitely a real opportunity, and maybe it's the words that we are saying. But like we said, if everybody else knows about the opportunity, we have no advantage. And capture planning is about positioning yourself favorably before the opportunity lands to give us an advantage, right? So that is why we're saying it could be expensive. But yes, you are right. It is a real opportunity. It's on the tender portal. It's valid. And when you do respond, you let the rest of them know that you can provide a service, a solution. So you're putting your company name out there. Completely agree with you. We're just saying capture planning is giving you an advantage that you probably will not have if you just only seeing it when it's issued on the tender portal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're right. You're right there.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you for that perspective. Remember, we welcome all perspectives here. We are all learning, and it's really great to get those different perspectives. I think Mareka, your hand was up next, and then we'll move on to Janet.
Hi, everyone. So, Desh, I agree and 100% by principle and the best practices to, identify opportunities and know that they are coming out before they are released on the tender portal. However, sometimes I hear people say, specifically in the public sector, that, you don't have an opportunity to go and meet with a client and build those, let's call it relationships proactively, because everybody needs to have a fair chance. And there is no shaping opportunities before because, of how they score and the procurement rules and so forth. So some people might argue that and say it starts when it's released on the portal for public sector specifically. But I still believe you should have some idea that when the client is going to release, even though it's in a tender portal, you should have an idea, because if you know your customer well enough and you've got a good understanding of what time of the year they release opportunities, you should be aware. So still agree with it, but I can see also how sometimes in public sector people could perceive it differently.
Agreed. And I'd have to say, Mareka, even in public sector, there are ways to ethically position yourself favorably before the bid is released, right? And we'll talk about that. But Janet, your hand was up next.
Yeah, so I wanted to say something similar to Mareka, which is basically just to say that I think it depends very much on the industry that you're in, as well as where your company is with regards to their proposal or bid management. Are they relatively new in trying to get their name out there, that they are going after bigger bids because they decided that that's now a strategic focus, and in the past maybe it wasn't. So you want to kind of apply and submit something for every single bid just to kind of let the people know that you're playing in that space. Or like Mareka was pointing out with the public sector, yes, those you will only get the information once it's on the portal, but also when it comes to things like the public sector, or let's put certain government tenders and things like that, the risk is also a lot bigger if you don't have any discussions or knowledge about what the requirements will be before the tender goes out.
Well
so
said.
Those, even though they may be published publicly, they're not really for public application. Because you still have to have a very certain skill set to be able to do those types of projects.
Agree completely. And that's so true. Sometimes our pipeline and our revenue targets determine, that we need to go after that. But we'll talk about that later as well. But yes, very valid point, right? I see in the chat Bianca saying, I would say that when a tender is published on a portal, it is generally open for any eligible supplier to submit a bid. At that stage, I would classify it as an opportunity, but one that requires careful consideration. That's the key, Bianca, the careful consideration. because yes, bidding can be costly and time consuming. Yep, agree. So absolutely, yeah. So some great discussions. Thanks, guys. Next statement that I am going to ask you to do the same. O, opportunity. E, expensive. We are the incumbent, so we assume that we are well positioned. Is it an opportunity or is it going to be expensive?
Well, if you talk about assuming,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes expensive.
Well picked up. Well
Well,
done,
thank
Ilse and
you.
Susanna. Absolutely. I mean, assume is
Yes.
definitely not what we should be relying on, right? We need credible insight. Incumbenitis. That's a good one. Yep. So a lot of ease coming through. Absolutely. So yes, it's an expensive exercise because we want to be able to be we don't want to assume, we want to have valid, credible information, right? Okay, I think that was an easy one. Let's go to the last one. The main reason for bidding is that the opportunity is already included in the sales forecast. I wonder where the answers will lie on this one. The main reason for bidding is that the opportunity is included in the sales forecast. A mixed bag here. Okay. Some E's and O's. Okay, a lot of O's. Yep, Susanna, absolutely. You should still apply your mind. Absolutely. Yep. Then we are assuming it should have been qualified, right? The real opportunity if it's in the forecast. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. So it can be either or. This is a tricky one, right? If it's been qualified and if it's been forecasted properly, then yes. But here's the assume again, right? Even if it's in the sales forecast, there are a lot of criteria that we need to look at to understand whether it's still a credible opportunity to pursue. It could be that the decision makers have changed. It could be that, our pricing model is different. There could be a whole lot of variables that have come into play. Exactly, Torsi. It can't be the main reason we pursue the opportunity, not because it's in the sales forecast. So it is E, it's an expensive opportunity maybe because of different criteria, or it could be O, it's in the sales forecast. All of the criteria remains the same. The relationship still holds the same. The credible insight that we have is still the same. It hasn't changed due to decision makers. So agreed. It cannot be the main reason. We would need to have a look and understand the different criteria. Okay. So yeah, signs of a real opportunity. We understand the customer's needs. We have access to credible customer insight. We have relevant proof and case studies and references to support our claims, right? We've got enough time and capacity to respond accurately and with a quality response. Expensive submissions are, I'm sure you've heard this before, we may as well try. That is the sign of an expensive submission. Or qualification is based on optimism rather than evidence, right? Customer hot buttons are assumed rather than validated. We haven't discussed competitors. We don't have a solution and we're inventing it now during the bid. Those are signs of an expensive submission, right? And the Lupio report, the 2026 Lupio report, says that 81% of teams are winning more than half of their bids because they use a formal go, no-go process, right? So that is important. always apply your mind, look at the criteria, have a formal go, no-go process so you can understand it, right? A compliance submission is not automatically a competitive submission, right? We need to be strongly positioned and we need our claims to be supported by evidence. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, here's a question. What causes organizations to pursue opportunities that they're unlikely to win? What in your organization have you seen where the opportunity is totally unlikely to win, but you've got to go for it? Hopefully not fear, desperation, and hope.
Oh, absolutely desperation and people pleasing. The person who shouts the loudest, like just to get them off their back. Oh, just do this, please. Just get them off my table.
Oh, yes. We've all seen that before, been privy to that, got the t-shirt. Yeah.
Or ostrich, I always call it ostrich, the head in the sand, when people just don't want to see that an opportunity isn't actually a valid opportunity. So you keep pushing it because you have to hope, you have to try something.
Yeah,
And
there's no
so the
honest
desperation,
reflection.
fear, and hope, I think, is often why a lot of places end up participating in bids that aren't necessarily worthwhile.
Yeah, yeah. Supriya and
Dheshnee,
Eloise says a foot in the door. Yes.
No, I was just going to say what Supriya is saying is very often what happens, and it can actually be, it can cause you a lot of risk in the same time. At the same time.
Yes, absolutely. I'm reading Susanna's comment as well. Unbelievable, right? You submitted just because they asked you to submit, but your pricing was completely out of the water, right? So you couldn't bid competitively. So that's an extremely expensive exercise, right?
Yeah, bidding for the sake of bidding. And but then we priced ourselves to be too expensive because the pricing that the client wanted submitted was not feasible for us. So what a waste.
What a waste. Time, effort, resources, paper, if it was a physical submission. Crazy, right? Wow. Okay. Foot in the door. Yep, that's another one. People pleasing. Sorry, Mohammed, you have your hand up?
I just wanted to ask, do you all also believe in sometimes in order to win, you have to lose before?
No.
No.
I will open it up to the audience, but in my experience, no. We always want to win, right? And if we can't win, we would put in a no bid letter to tell them why, right? A no bid letter is sometimes the most strategic document that you can put together to tell the customer, listen, you know, this is the reason why we actually not going to bid. And as the experts, you know, as trusted advisors, this is why we won't bid. And that actually gives them, the customer, a lot more comfort knowing that you're honest, you know, and you transparent about those things. So definitely believe in the power of no bid letters. Yeah. I wouldn't just bid to lose.
Oh, okay. Thank
but
you.
That's my perspective. Is there anybody else that has a different perspective? Ooh.
So, yes and no.
Okay.
I don't think a question of bid to lose on, this is going to sound bad, bid to lose on new business, no. Bid to lose on unprofitable business because the customer didn't give the clear scope of work and etc. Sometimes yes. It still grates me, but sometimes that happens because the customer did not actually share the full scope of work and the account did not end up, they overstated volumes or whatever. But also at the same time, not bidding to lose, but accepting that sometimes when you go after big global companies, the chances are good that you will not win anything on your first submission because you are new to them. Even if you have the relationship, even if you have done the vetting from a global perspective, multiple countries have, for instance, relationships, knowing that on your first tender, you will not get business because they will not put a large amount of business onto a new incumbent. So it's not bidding to lose, but at the same time, you are realistic that with certain customers, you are going to only win on your second or your third year tendering because they need to see certain consistencies, because they cannot risk moving their business if they do not have a view of the actual services.
So I hear you, and you've got some valid points, right? But we need to think about this very carefully because bidding is an expensive exercise, right? And, you know, to my point on the no bid letters, right? And like Monica's put in the chat already there, right? It's a clear explanation for a no bid decision, right? Having that clear explanation does help build trust and strengthen relationships, which is what you want to do without the cost of putting an entire bid together, right? And it does help you be seen by the customer as a trusted advisor, someone who is honest and who brings certain perspectives to the table that they might not have seen before. So agree. Again, what I think we're trying to get at here is that the strategy for that decision, whatever that decision is, whether it is to bid just to disrupt, because sometimes we do that, or it's whether, you know, to put in a no bid letter, that strategy to make that call is important. And of course, that depends on a whole lot of different criteria and very specific to that opportunity, that customer, that relationship, those type of things. So yes, completely agree with that, right? Great. Love the conversation. That's really, really great. Okay, so we're going to go into what we want you to take out from today, some practical capture disciplines that you can start to implement today that will help you, you know, just increase your win rate and increase the bid discipline within your organization, right? So the first one is qualify better, the golden rule, right? Because qualification should test whether you can win, not whether you can submit. Can I say that again? Qualification should test whether you can win, not whether you can submit. There is a very big difference, right? So tell me, what is the bravest no bid decision your organization has made?
I wouldn't say it was brave as it was necessary because they didn't listen during the first round.
Yeah.
So we were forced to submit during the first round. And when the customer then went into detail with the people who were at the clarification session and the product heads, after the feedback for the round one and going through our proposal, they then only realized that, okay, wait, this is actually a lot stricter KPIs, everything than we can. So pulling out on a massive automotive company on the second round when we were in their top two on our original offer, but realizing that we will lose millions if we actually got that account.
Okay, so that cost was that massive risk, right? That could have sunk you. Yeah. Okay, perfect.
And completely ruin our reputation in an industry that we're actively trying to grow.
Yeah. So honest qualification does protect time, money, and credibility, right? Good stuff. Okay. So the discipline here for qualifying better is that we need to use evidence-based go, no-go criteria, right? And revisit the decision as new information emerges, just like you guys did in the second round, right? Although you were part of two, you know, you made that decision to not go. So qualification doesn't happen once. That's the discipline, right? It needs to be revisited. Okay. Number 2, understand your buyer hot buttons. What do you think the customer really cares about, but that doesn't appear clearly in the RFP? What is one thing that you might have found in any of your submissions that did not appear in the actual RFP, but you knew mattered to the customer?
We had a customer that specifically we know needed food grade warehousing above and beyond, and the clearance will always be given to whoever provides that warehousing.
Okay, and it wasn't in the RFP document?
No, so they run their warehousing and their clearing and their forwarding RFPs completely separately.
Okay.
Same decision maker, but as separate tenders.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other ones where it wasn't in the RFP document? Think about implementation confidence, right? Think about service quality or transformation or innovation. Think about disruption as well, that they might not have explicitly stated in the RFP document, but you know that it matters to them, or it matters to that specific decision maker, that buyer, right? Because that's really what capture planning should uncover. Why it matters, not just what the hot buttons are, but why it matters to that specific customer, right? Or that specific buyer. And you need to put in the evidence that supports it, right? So customer hot buttons should actually shape the solution, your win themes. It should shape the proof that you're going to put in. And of course, your exec summary, right? Because a persuasive proposal reflects the buyer. Yes. Sorry.
Sorry, that was a mistake.
No
Does
problem.
Does it also include like thinking for your customers? Because what I learned so I'm new to this whole budding and sales thing. This is my 3rd month in sales. I have no idea.
Welcome.
Thank you. But I am getting used to it. So normally what I do when I meet customers or when I speak to customers, of course, they tell me about the products they need and what, but what I do is I take it I extend it. So I think for them, in future. Do you understand?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a very good strategy to think for them, right? But I think the winning strategy is to test that thinking with them, right? Is to understand. Yeah. So obviously, every buyer has a concept in their head, right? That they want to fix, avoid, or accomplish. We use probing questions when we're sitting with them to understand and uncover what that concept is. And we test that. So you spot on, Mohammed, just take it one step further and test it with them so that it becomes valid, right?
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Oh, welcome. Okay, the next practical discipline is testing your competitor assumptions, right? Competitors cannot be ignored simply because the information is incomplete, because like we have established, assumptions are dangerous, right? We can assume the incumbent is weak. We can assume the customer wants to change. Our relationship is stronger. I mean, we need to actually test these assumptions before they become a strategy, right? So the discipline here is, who are the competitors? Who's the incumbent? What advantages do they have? How do you think they might position against us? Right? What must we prove or what must we neutralize? So the discipline here is that you do not need perfect competitor intelligence, but you do need to have credible, informed hypotheses, not just assumptions, right? Because ignoring competitors does not make them less competitive. Okay, I mean, there are so many times where we were surprised that it ended up still with the incumbent, although we heard, right, that they were not happy with them. So these things happen, and you have to have that credible confirmation. The next one is closing your proof gaps. What proposal phrase immediately makes you suspicious? Let's hear in the chat. What phrase makes you suspicious when you see it in a proposal document or you hear it flung out at a strategy session? What are some of those phrases? Best in class? Anybody heard that? Yeah, unique. What really is unique? We can do anything. Wow, Werner. Yep. Lots of optimism there. Overconfidence, right? Yes. Strategic. I think I actually have a button here. But, oh, you won't be able to see that clearly. It says, but it's strategic. So we should go for it. Yeah, absolutely. So those phrases, highly experienced, industry leading, proven expertise, these are not bad words, right? But they do carry a heavy evidence burden. So if you're putting it in, which I wouldn't suggest you do, but if you are putting it in, it means little without proof. So include the relevant proof. Like I said, it carries a heavy evidence burden, right? So relevant proof is case studies, customer reference, delivery statistics. It could be a qualification or certification to prove that you can do that work. Another proof, which not many people put in, is lessons learned. If you can show lessons learned from a similar project, similar complexity, similar industry, guess what? That speaks volumes. You've learned the lessons, you've implemented best practice because of those lessons. This is the statistics that show, that you can do it and that proof that it's going to work. So the discipline here is creating a proof plan, right? For every major claim that you put into your proposal, make sure it's relevant to the customer, make sure it's current and it's credible, and make sure that the proof is quantifiable, right? Because if you cannot prove a critical win theme, so you're putting win themes together in your strategy session, according to that specific opportunity and that specific buyer and customer and what they're looking for according to their hot buttons, if you cannot prove that critical win theme, then you should either close the gap with proof or reconsider that claim. Okay. The last capture discipline, align internally early before the bid storm. So let's hear it from you. Which stakeholder usually arrives late to the bid party? Is it finance? Is it legal? Who is it? Love to hear from you.
Sales.
The obvious one. Yeah, client manager and sales. Yeah, I mean, think about legal, think about delivery, think about risk, right? Leadership, subject matter experts, right? So, I mean, typical late surprises can include the solution is not deliverable, pricing assumptions are wrong, legal doesn't accept the terms, the evidence is unavailable, right? The SMEs don't have capacity, the subject matter experts. So without early alignment, the bid, and I hope I don't trigger some of you here, but the bid becomes the place, or the bid kickoff becomes the place where unresolved issues finally surface. I've been privy to that, right? So the discipline here is before the tender lands, agree what the customer hot buttons are, the proposed solution, the risks and dependencies, what are the proof requirements, right? Who are the stakeholders that are going to be part of the core team? What is their decision-making authority, right? What will they be doing? When do you need those things by? Because internal alignment should happen before the bid storm. That's what capture discipline is all about, right? Not in the middle of it, right? Because that's going to reduce rework. That's going to improve your decision making. And that's going to give you a clear strategy Okay. So basically, capture planning does create better bid discipline. So if you, yes?
Sorry to interrupt. Not
course.
finished.
No. I was just saying, if you implement these capture disciplines within your team, you'll immediately see an improvement in that bid discipline. Ilse?
Tandile's hand has been up for quite some time.
Sorry, Tandile.
No problem. I just wanted to add that I generally see a lot of clash between technical and finance. Technical, particularly with, say, for instance, drafting method statements and the method of execution of the works. And then obviously that has an effect on the total bid pricing. So the person who's doing the pricing.
Yes.
And, technical guys, a lot of the times, they will obviously look at the technical of how it's going to be done, how it's going to be executed.
Correct.
The resources that are going to be needed, whatever, depending on the industry. And then obviously they are not necessarily sometimes thinking with the price in mind.
Yes, correct.
They're just going with the technical part. So I see a lot of clashes with those two. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well spotted, right? Absolutely. And it's good to bring those two together at the beginning to make sure that we work all of those out, right? Before the actual bid is there or before we have to start putting that together. Thank you for that, Tandile.
Thank you.
Janet?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we as well have an issue on, and that's also like our kickoff meeting when it comes to the pricing, because I handle the pricing as well, is pretty much exactly that. Like, you need to tell us exactly what resources you are going to need. So our struggle is, or my struggle is in certain product categories, getting them to understand you need to share the technicalities so that we can price certain things and consider certain things. If you are going to need dedicated resources that we don't currently have, we need to factor that in on implementation plan, ramp up, pricing, whatever. And then certain products actually get very upset and they just don't want to share. They question everything, but they're not willing to share. And you're like, if you don't share that information, we're not participating in this. We can't. What do you want me to put forward if you're not telling me what solution?
Agreed,
and that is where the pre-planning becomes very important as well, like you mentioned earlier.
Important.
You need to kind of know what solution you're going to be offering them from a technical perspective long before the bid comes out.
Absolutely. So you're not building that solution in flight, right? That's important. So I mean, I'm looking at some of the polls, right? So we've asked, we know the client is used as the main reason. I mean, 55% of you say that's quite often, right? And so that's quite a red flag, but that's kind of what we all do until we know better, right? So capture planning helps you uncover the evidence to that question. Yes, we know the client, but is it strong, credible evidence that we have to be able to go for it? So absolutely. That is kind of what we want to talk about when it comes to capture disciplines, right? Putting those things in place could help you increase your win rate. Now, I'm not going to go to that question. I'm actually going to go to the summary of this, and we'll get into some of the questions and the meat of the discussion now. But basically, the summary of bringing it all together, right? Capture planning does create better bid discipline, right? Because it helps you start earlier by aligning with your teams earlier. It helps you qualify more honestly, right? Understand the buyer, assess your competitors, strengthen that proof, make better investment decisions, which I think is definitely, one of the stronger reasons for capture planning. And it helps you enter the bid with an agreed strategy, right? And capture planning's aim is not to create more process, right? The aim is to stop teams from bidding cold, late, and blind. Now, African countries spend on average approximately 17% of the GDP on public procurement of goods, works, and services, right? This is according to the World Bank blogs. So there is a large opportunity, but it doesn't remove the need for disciplined pursuit, right? It actually increases it because qualification, insight, and positioning becomes even more important because there's so much of, there's competitive, right, natures. So National Treasury also provides downloadable public procurement data, right, through its transparency portal. So I'll put that in the chat, but that strengthens the case, right, for using market and award intelligence during capture planning. So just going to the chat, how are you finding that so far? What are some of your thoughts on this summary slide? What is, do you have proof that matters, or do you need to go and start looking at that? Where do you think, you are weak at this moment in time within your specific organization?
Dheshnee, if I can jump in, this is Tandile. So
Yes,
number
Tandile.
5, qualification
Yes.
needs to be more honest.
Yeah.
I find that qualification is generally very wishy-washy sometimes with certain organizations, because sometimes, there's a lot of chance taking, a lot of hopefulness within bidding.
Optimism.
And so, yes, a lot of optimism, optimism that's stretched a bit beyond, right?
Yes,
And there's a compliance document that you don't have, that's a requirement, but you're hoping that they miss it. You're hoping that they don't see that it's not in there, that kind of a thing. So I think that qualification, honestly, a lot of organizations need to start really being very strict to themselves and also saying, guys, let's just be honest. We can't not have half the qualification, half the mandatory documents and then think somehow we're going to seep through. It's not going to happen. It's honestly not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
I find is something that happens a lot. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Tandile. And to do with qualification, right? We have a framework in place. Often we don't even have a go, no go framework in place, right? So we need to have a framework in place, and you're completely right. There needs to be honesty, right? And where I find that's our biggest challenge, right, is at a go, no go, everybody is optimistic, or they overconfident, or they don't have the evidence to back up their go decision, right? And I would suggest making that go, no go sessions a safe space so that people can be honest. And you could say to the salespeople, for instance, who are always punting for it to be a go, we want to get your insights that you only have. We want to table it. We want to be honest about it. So not only to say it's a no-go, but if it's a go, to mitigate those gaps within our response or within our relationship. So we basically telling sales, we want to use the insight you have to be able to better position our opportunities, rather than them thinking we just want to say no go to all of it. So I do see that we have a few minutes left before we actually end. It's come to an end so quickly. And before we end, I want to just ask you, you've seen this at the beginning of the session. If you haven't done scan the QR code already, please do so. This is a capture planning health check, right? You can keep your own score. There's no need to confess publicly unless you feel strongly led that you want to. But if you answered yes to 3 or more of those questions, then your organization may not need more bid activity. It may need a stronger capture discipline. And so you can contact nFold for a free 15-minute consultation to help you elevate your capture planning health, right? So as we finish our coffee conversation, I'd just like to leave you with one question. When the next RFP lands, will your team be starting the strategy or executing a strategy that has already been tested and agreed? And I hope it's the latter. Because capture planning is not just about adding more admin, right? It's about making better decisions earlier. It's about understanding your customer more deeply and investing in opportunities where there is a credible path to winning. Because winning does start before the tender lands. And sometimes the difference between a pursuit and professional panic is just simply when the difficult conversations begin. So thank you for the coffee and the conversation. If there isn't any other questions in the chat, I'm going to go through it now. Oh, don't feel alone, Portia. It's a common challenge, and you have a bid community at your fingertips should you need us. Mohammed, do you have a question?
Is there going to be another session of this anytime?
Absolutely. We will do more sessions. Keep an eye out on our LinkedIn page, and we can add you to our mailing list as well. Mohammed, just pop your details in the chat if we don't already have it, and we will definitely let you know.
Lanisha already have it.
Ah, perfect.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Isanda say the next session is in August about the new procurement regulations. That's going to be a really good one with Tanti Pino. So yes, please attend. Some really interesting information is going to be shared there. Valuable nuggets. Okay, so I think that's it. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.